Welcome back to our Get Down to Business panel designed to fuel business community optimism and share invaluable insights among the small business community. I'm Peter Switzer, and on today's panel we have a powerhouse of female small business leaders joining us to discuss their unique journeys and plentiful learnings along the way. Let's meet our panel.
Hi, I'm Susanna George and I am the founder and CEO of Urban List.
Hi, I'm Hannah Vasicek and I am the founder and CEO of Francesca Jewelry.
Hello, I'm Bridie Stewart and I am the founder and CEO of Mary Maker Studio.
Let's start with you first of all, Hannah, and tell us, what was the leap moment when you decided to go into this business of yours, and where were you and what were you doing at the time?
I'd probably say I was sitting in my car in a car park and I had just been offered a full-time graduate law position, and during the interview they gave me a month to decide between the business or the job. So for me, it was a phone call with my dad and he gave me some amazing advice, and he actually said, do what makes you time rich. And for me, that was all I needed, the leap to just give it a go.
How about you, Susanna?
Peter, I was living and working in Los Angeles. I had an idea that I thought might one day become something. Took me 3 years to have the guts to actually move home to Australia to see if I could make a go of this thing. And eventually I arrived at a point where the risk of saying what if for a lifetime outweighed the risk of actually giving this thing a shot.
How about you, Bridie? What about you?
I was working as a teacher, but I was a crushed creative. It was really a sliding doors moment where I wanted to make art, but also inspire other people to make art and to encourage them to follow their creative journeys.
Okay, let's go to the next question I've got for you. What prepared you for the risks involved as an entrepreneur, small business owner? Let's start with you, Bridie.
So I don't find that I actually fear risk and I don't fear failure. I've got a bit of a saying that you can fix a bad blog, you can fix a bad product, you can fix a bad story, but you can't fix something that was never made. So I'm always getting it done and making sure that I have something to work with. That takes away the risk. The risk is sometimes we get stuck in starting. So get it made, implement change and work it out as we go.
How about you, Susanna?
I really love that saying, Bridie. You can't fix something that's not been created. I think the advice that I got was get out of your own way. So not fearing failure and rather seeing it as feedback and being willing to take the plunge.
Hannah?
Yeah, so I remember seeing on stage one day at an event that the fear of failure killed more dreams than failure itself. And that really hit home with me. But honestly, I just winged it the whole time and had actually no idea of the risks. So things like we were robbed one day and I didn't even have insurance for the stock. It's something that I think, when you're a business owner, you can't know it all. And so you could just go in blindly and you have to make it up as you go. So I think, naivety is great sometimes when you start a business.
Yeah, you might not do it if everyone tells you all the things that can go wrong. Okay, so then my next question to all of you is, what was the best piece of advice you received which you still use and live by today? Susanna, what's yours?
It was a really beautiful quote from Murray that I will butcher if I try and repeat it word for word, but it was all to do with commitment. And it was really this idea that until you truly deeply go all in, pretty much everything you do in life and in work will be a little bit ineffective and inefficient. And it's not until you really dive deep and give all of yourself that the world moves for you. There's a little bit of it that whatever you can do or dream, do it, because there is magic in boldness. And I really believe that's true, that when I have really, really committed, it is amazing the sorts of good luck that actually comes your way.
How about you, Hannah?
I would probably say, and I always come back to it, is trust your gut, trust your intuition. Often my head has gotten in the way of so many things and I've known deep down that it wasn't right for the business. So that'd probably be one of the key bits of advice.
Bridie?
probably you will get stronger the longer you go, not the faster. So we can be so caught up in having things happen now and watching everyone else's show reels that we only see the best bits of. You know, some things take time and that is okay. If it is your dharma to be doing what you're doing, it will all come to you and, you know, it'll be a beautiful journey, but it's one that may take time.
Okay. What about the advantages of being a female business owner, Bridie?
In so many ways, look, we are natural connectors and communicators. We can build community. We can approach people and get such warmth and rawness across in a beautiful way. And one thing that, you know, we're not overlooked anymore. Our intuitive nature and the way that we can see things in a global sense is a superpower. And it's something that's taken a while for women in business to really lean into because we are new to this area. But I find certain attributes that I have, my business would not be the same if it was run by a man.
Okay, Susanna, what about you?
I think it's really great to see some of these feminine leadership traits coming to the fore. I lent on them very heavily through COVID. I think I have some masculine leadership traits that have stood me in really good stead, like drive and a bit of competitiveness, a bit of white line fever. And equally, those feminine leadership traits were the ones that I really needed to lean on when the going got tough. Empathy, intuition, creativity, and certainly that honesty and transparency and clarity and communication style that you were talking about, Bridie, that ability to be both warm and clear and deeply connected all at once.
I also find women are great listeners, and that's a really good thing for leaders and also for being in business.
I agree with Bridie. I think that the thing that has really stood my business, well, is our culture. And I think being a bit more empathetic, a bit more emotional. I actually have a team of 60 women, so we don't employ any men. Just because I think we have such a culture that we are passionate, and I think that femininity is really, I guess, nurtured within the business. And yeah, I think we're our own worst enemy sometimes. It's our limiting beliefs that actually hold us back. One of the girls showed this video recently, which was around kicking like a girl. I think it's on YouTube. And it was just amazing in that it's our own belief in, we kick like a girl, but actually we can kick like ourselves. And our sex doesn't define us. So I think, seeing more and more women in business is just so awesome, and those limiting beliefs are going.
One last one. Was there a business that you held up as a role model, in a sense a beacon, that's actually affected your vision and has partly explained your success?
For me, definitely. Samantha Wills, she's about 10 years older than me, and it was when I was, I think, 12 or 13 making jewellery and thought, man, this would be amazing to do this all the time. I think it was a TV show, a documentary around how she'd gone from Bondi markets to New York. And it's funny, just having that one person who had done it was the hope that I needed to get me through the next 10 years. And, I brought my own finesse to it. It wasn't like I aspired to be her, but the fact that someone had paved the way was seriously inspiring. So yeah, Samantha Wills, she's another jewellery designer. She's retired now and doing other things. Yeah. And now I actually talk to her on a daily basis, and it's awesome.
Yeah, fantastic story that is. Susanna, what about you?
I wish I'd been as clever as to seek out other businesses in our sector that were doing amazing things and to learn more from them earlier. I've always been very, very inspired by other entrepreneurs, but there wasn't a single business that I looked at and I thought, wow, if I could emulate elements of that, I think we've really got something here.
Okay, what about you, Bridie?
Well, mine I've sort of flipped. So rather than looking for a big brand or a well-known business to follow, I really look to my customers who are small businesses and look to their strengths and look to their pains in business and engage with them. because I was that person. I was the creative who was having panic attacks and needing an outlet. So I identify with my customers who are looking for a bit of stillness in their world. So it's their businesses, their growing businesses that are now exporting overseas and doing amazing things that we're banded together to, evolve the whole industry, not just my business.
Well, I tell you what, all of you got me very excited. I look forward to delving deeper into your individual stories as this program evolves. I'm here now with Susanna George of Urban List. Let's just kick off with the key question. Tell us what led you to this moment to create something called Urban List.
I'm going to take us back a couple of decades. I was 22 when I moved to Paris, and then 24 when I moved to Los Angeles. So twice in pretty quick succession, I found myself in really big cities. No fam or friends around to guide me on the very important things for a young 20-something life, which were essentially where to get good pizza and who does good margaritas and who's going to cut my hair. So I turned to the internet to act as my guide, as the oracle. And if you cast your mind back to the early 2000s, it was very much a space of user-generated content and directories. So it was all about user-generated ratings and reviews and very little in the way of curation. So I found myself really tripping up trying to navigate these cities and wondering whether I had more in common with the 1-star review or the 5. And I found that search experience to be really, really inefficient. All I wanted was just some destination that I could turn to that would really curate my life in the city. And I thought that if there was a gap for that in Los Angeles, quite possibly a gap for that everywhere. I'm also the daughter of a small business owner. I think I'm 5th generation small business owner. And so I'm very, very passionate about small businesses and the contribution that Australia's small businesses create for our culture. So I was looking at the emergence of digital media, the emergence of social media, and the impact that this was about to have on the small business space. I recognized very early that this was going to be yet another challenge for small business owners to grapple with. And I also knew that I didn't want to handhold mums and dads through setting up Facebook pages. Anything that I did, I really wanted to do it at scale. And so I put these two opportunities together. One was a consumer challenge of really wanting to navigate and optimize their life in the city. And the other was this small business challenge of trying to figure out how to use the digital landscape to grow and retain a customer base. And I came up with this idea that quite simply attracted like minds through the internet so that I could channel them out to the small businesses that I loved.
Okay, so when people say to you, what does Urban List do? In a nutshell, what do you say?
We provide recommendations on things that you can get out and eat, do, book, buy, see, stream, learn. We're now serving about 30,000 recommendations an hour, or on demand. And we've really become this platform that is merging the worlds of publisher and performance.
Okay, so what prepared you, apart from swanning around Paris and Los Angeles looking for pizza and margaritas, what prepared you for this startup environment that you kicked off?
When you put it that way, I sound like a really horrible human. I swear I have evolved since my early 20s.
Okay,
self.
Yeah. All right.
But what prepared me for the startup environment? Not much. I think that very little prepares us for any role that we have in life until we're thrust into the hot seat. I was probably just as unprepared to be a startup founder as I was to become a first-time mum, or second-time mum for that matter. I am a big subscriber to that theory of 70-20-10 when it comes to learning.
When you started, did you just think that really the world always wants lists of stuff that's out there, and it's great if it can be even ranked? Is that the kind of thing that drove you in these early days?
anyone who's having an impact in this world probably is a bit of a fan of lists. I am certainly a big list maker, and I think that we are not necessarily looking to Urban List as being the authority when it comes to the penultimate list of anything to do in this world, but more so a source of recommendations so that you can create your own. So we very much trust the agency of our community and their ability to curate from amongst our recommendations. And yes, it's got an inherent bent toward that listicle format, but in reality, all we're doing is creating recommendations around experiences that you can have.
So the cross-market business with decentralised workers, how do you make sure you motivate your staff?
This is the biggest part of my role. So we exist in 12 markets. We have team members located across all of our markets. And it is a huge ask to make sure that we really are all aligned in the vision that we're rowing toward. I have learned a lot in this space over the years, and at its crux, it all comes down to who it is that you invite to join the team and ensuring that these are people who are going to thrive in a decentralized model.
Susanna, because your business stretches over a big geography and you've got boots on the ground, why don't you talk to us about the boots on the ground and how they help you stay ahead of the curve?
It is our greatest advantage, Peter, to have this decentralized model where we can really look for talent where they are located rather than looking for talent in specific markets. So we are so very, very fortunate to have extraordinary humans collaborating to bring our dream to life all over our 12 markets. And we really use where the talent's located to guide where our boots are situated. It's then on us, of course, from a leadership and management perspective, to make sure that we have the systems in place to make that work. It is more complicated than having everybody in the same room, and we don't have that ability to eyeball everybody every day. We don't walk into the same environment. But we do have the structures in place now to really make sure that the connection is just as strong, even though the vast majority of our team have actually never met one another face to face.
All right, so you've got fantastic customer database in Urban List. How have you used that to effectively optimise the business results?
Pretty wild, the quantity of data that we have access to. I had never imagined starting this business that it could grow to reach anywhere near the scale that we have. And we are very committed to making sure that we're using this data ethically. So we start with, how do we leverage this data to enhance the user experience as a whole? So how can we use this data to make sure that the recommendations that we're offering and the content that we're creating is a whole lot more resonant for that audience? And of course, by doing that, we are inherently connecting advertisers, brand partners with an audience that is in market for the category or product set that brand partner serves. So we become very, very astute at being audience-led in terms of the recommendations that they're after, and then able to match that audience with the advertiser or the brand partner who exists within that category set. Ultimately, it brings about an amazing experience for both partners, and therefore a really amazing brand experience with Urban List, because we're not putting recommendations in front of you that are not suited to you, but are really being guided by your own agency and your own sort of self-expressed intent for a category or a product set.
Okay, so what's happening to Urban List over the next 5 years?
5 years is such a wide horizon when it comes to digital media, but I can definitely talk to the next 3.
Okay.
We are very committed to continuing to expand this brand geographically, and we will be launching in a new market early in 2022. Was to be early 2020, but of course, COVID. And we are very committed also to really leaning into this community that we've built, this audience that we've built of 3 million culture seekers. And what is it that as a brand we could be creating for them and with them to solve some problems that they are experiencing in their lives.
I'll call in the rest of the team now, and I want to explore something that Susanna talked about, the decentralised working model, and ask both Bridie and Hannah, is that something that they're working on? Is it something that you could see working in their business? So let's go to Bridie first of all.
We have a warehouse team who fulfill all orders, but apart from that, we all work remotely. So whether you are doing design or whether you are doing website, social media, whatever it is, just like Susanna, we find experts who we can bring to the team, and we are happy for them to work whatever time of day, wherever geographically they lay, as long as we can connect and ensure that we're on the same page. Sometimes sprinkling people from different geological locations creates a little bit of new eyes as well. So we're not just getting the same person from the same location. We're getting influenced by around the world.
All right, Hannah, how about you? Decentralised workers?
Yeah, so it's something that obviously we were forced into doing when COVID hit in Tasmania last year. We're very fortunate in that we didn't have a huge lockdown period. So our warehouse still operated to dispatch orders, and then any of our staff that sort of could work from home could. So we had beading packs sent out for all of our production girls, beading at home, and marketing, working from home and everything like that. And it actually highlighted to me that we truly love being in the office with each other. My culture is, it buzzes, like we're quite fast moving. So often one of the girls will come up with an idea and we'll work together as a team to take it to market, within a day. And so I think we missed that in a way when everyone was working from home. Another thing being online is when we closed our Melbourne store for, I think, the longest period in the world during lockdowns.
Yeah.
We actually were really fortunate that we didn't stand our Melbourne team down. They were obviously retail facing. We actually retasked them to areas in the business. So we had girls writing blogs, we had girls editing product photos, things like that. So really fortunate in that we were able to flex into that area for retasking people to work from home. And again, our business model for the last few years has worked with consultants as well. So I have my core workforce that I prefer to have face-to-face interaction, but then we've got experts all over that are virtual. So I have a virtual CFO, for example, and that's been paramount in that because she's a degree separated from the business, she can step in and, really come through with those financial decisions with certain senior staff members that wouldn't have the same impact, I don't think, if she was in the office with us every day.
Tell us about how having access to a great customer database, how's that changed the nature of your business, do you think?
Our customer database has obviously enabled less risk. We're not working every day to try and get new customers. We know that we'll always have that customer base that we can remarket to. Great example was recently we had the Facebook outages, and a lot of businesses who are so reliant on first-time customers only and not much customer lifetime value would have really struggled. We actually had already in the process had in the works an app. And that was an app so that everyone from Facebook, all of our existing customers would download our Francesca app, and we would simply send a push notification to alert them that Facebook was down. And that happened last week as well. Actually, our website was down, but our app was available. So I think having access to customers' data and their emails and everything like that gives us that sort of flexibility to not rely on Facebook. But also we're now looking into segmentation. So knowing if a customer purchases a necklace, we want to not send them just a generic email. We want to educate them and segment them into a necklace group where we educate them about adding charms to that necklace. So personalised experience coming into customer databases.
Bridie, tell me your customer database, how does that affect the nature of your business?
I've got a very strong return customer rate. So that sits at around 68 to 70%, depending monthly. I have a product that people use and then, sell. So it's almost like a consumable. So I've got lots of customer data based around what they've purchased with, the journey as to how long their purchases lay between themselves. And then I can copycat that within my EDMs on similar customers, similar purchases, their location. And I use that. My husband jokes that I listened to Google Analytics and my EDM data like Netflix. I sit, watch, I read, I analyze, because having data is one thing as well. Reading it and implementing it in your business is another thing. And sometimes we don't want to actually look at the data because we might have to put work into places that doesn't light us up. But I think having such a strong customer history with a strong return rate enables me to order in advance, seek out more warm traffic based on lookalike customers via Facebook, run into Google Ads with all that sort of, strong history, knowing that I'm not going to be wasting money, but also knowing that I've got loyal customers who have been with me for years, who I can draw on their history, where they're moving to, and quite often use their referral, top of the food chain.
Tell us about how you went from being an art teacher to a small business owner. It's no mean feat.
So I have always been a creative and a curious creative of that. But when I was going through my schooling, I was discouraged to follow in, to be an artist. So like any good student, I went on and I did a 4-year creative fine arts degree. And then I did a Bachelor of Education. So I went into teaching. And whilst I loved it and my career was exploding, I found myself encouraging my students to follow their dream, to follow their passion, but I really wasn't following mine. I loved my job, but I didn't see it as a lifelong way to happiness. And 1 week before I was to get married, just before I turned 30, I was actually diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So this was the impetus for me to sit down and say, if this was it, would I be happy? Is this a successful life? And it was just a strong no. It was an out-of-body experience telling me that I had more to give. I'd spent 15 years encouraging people to really look within themselves, lean into what they love and follow that. And it was finally the time for me to do that. So a health diagnosis gave me courage, and it was crazily the best thing that could have happened to me in that point in time, to really focus on what I wanted. And now I encourage other people to do the same.
Okay, so you're 1 minute you're in the classroom, and the next minute you're taking on the supply chain of the world, trying to pull out this fantastic material. Did you think at first it was going to be a lot harder than it turned out to be, or did it end up being harder than you thought?
It was harder than I thought. So I turned to macrame and weaving as a way to reconnect. So it's a mindful meditation, a slow movement, the repetitive nature allows you to disconnect from the world, which when going through my health battles, that's what I needed. But I found a gap in the market. The products that were available in chain stores and even on the internet back then, I would spend 20, 30 hours on a piece, but to be honest, it looked like rubbish because of the products that were available. So I set out to create my own, and I went from, importing 100 kilos a year to 150 ton a year, because my community that I've built and the people using these products, it's the feeling. We are creatives, it's touch. We want to use amazing products, and it was a tricky thing to create these products, but it's now where my creativity flows through textile.
Were there any businesses out there that, in a sense, became an inspiration to help you conceive and develop this great business of yours?
So I always looked up to Greta, who has a catch cry that says, take a product and change one element of it. So it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about creating or finding a product and then changing one element to create a new product. And I've done this, but I also draw upon customers and community members to see what they want and to see where their needs lie and think about where they're making will innovate and create products that will align with them, but also bring them on the journey. So when we do create a new line, they feel like they're a part of the process, a part of its birth, and then those customers go on and, market the product for me.
Yeah. We all know that the coronavirus brought gaming, baking and crafting. And what was the impact? We've been told that apparently in 12 weeks or 12 weeks worth of yarn disappeared in 2 days because the demand was so big. Is that true?
Yes. We thought the website may have failed. We did a product launch start of April, so just after lockdown, and it sold out within a couple of days. And that was enough stock to get us through, a quarter. So we quickly got more, made and sent over to us. But that aside, what it really did show us is that during lockdown, people took the time to do something that they love that wasn't necessarily focused on revenue or focused on success. We saw people don't feel like they are creative. People don't think they have time to do these things. But during COVID, people were given time. And the fact that people were baking sourdough, they were knitting and creating with their time, it really was beautiful for me to see, whose main vision is to enable people to connect through creativity. It was just wonderful to see so many people exploring new areas.
Okay, so one thing we've known has developed because of COVID-19 is there's all these sort of subcultures of social media out there, including small business, TikTok, and dedicated communities to crafting. How have you capitalised on all these active audiences out there nowadays?
So whilst I'm not on TikTok, Instagram and Facebook are absolutely imperative for my business. I've got a Facebook group with 20,000 handmade makers on there who talk about works they've made, struggles they've had, finding products, sharing tips and techniques. And YouTube has been great for that as well, where I share people how to do things. So people have a restriction with their knowledge. People went out and got driving lessons. People would go out and get tennis lessons, but no one will go out and get a creativity lesson because it doesn't bring revenue, or there's no box to tick at the end of it because it's a lifelong journey. So I encourage people that with this little roll of rope and with a little bit of encouragement and know-how, you can create not only a beautiful piece, but you can create, a wonderful toned down still journey on the way. And through Instagram and through videos, we've seen we've had a few posts go viral, and especially on YouTube, I think we've had 25 million views on one of our videos, which has been incredible for our community. And not just for them, but they're going to markets and they're selling their pieces. And the people walking past that are attending these markets know what they're looking at, because we're getting fibre art into the mainstream, which is also my goal.
Yeah, I can see the joy in your eyes when you say that. 200,000 followers on Instagram. How did you achieve that?
Longevity, hard work.
Yeah.
It's not showing up and giving people quality content that they want to engage with. I show a lot of behind the business, and I'm the voice of the business. People have seen it grow from 100 followers. I invite people in, and I am just the figurehead for our community for which they interact on my page. People tag and share because I'm showing content. I show people the behind the scenes steps that people sort of hold close to their chest, because being a teacher, I want everyone to evolve and to innovate and to gain as much knowledge as possible. So I think because nothing is off limits with what I will share to encourage and invite other people to learn.
Yeah. And I think everybody in their life can always remember inspirational teachers. They choose to forget the ones that weren't inspirational, but that clearly you're taking what you learnt in the classroom to a much bigger audience. Finally, what's next for Mary Maker Studio?
So I always have new collections and new products lined up, but I think travel is the main thing to me. I need to get to some of these countries to get my feet on the ground and work with the communities who I've been talking to online for a while. But also I'm looking into really nourishing teaching people how to be creative. And it sounds like a funny notion for many people, but it is a skill that can be taught if you want to learn. I want to encourage people to lean into any area. Creativity is everywhere, be it how we dress, how we cook. It's just learning how to view the world a little differently. So I hope to give our community members who have helped build my business other ways to use creativity in their life and how to become more confident and curious whilst doing it.
Okay, we're going to talk to Hannah Vasicek, the founder of Francesca. Hannah, great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Now tell us, about this passion for making jewellery. What contributed to this?
It really started at a young age. I grew up in rural New South Wales, and so I was one of those crazy children with way too much energy. And at about 12 years of age, my mum actually took me into a beading store, and I guess that's where my love for jewellery making began. So I think I made a pair of earrings at first, and to be able to put something together from nothing was just amazing. So really, 12 years old was when it all started.
Yeah. People who discover the Francesca jewellery story, they instantly wonder, like you started off in a market in Salamanca in Hobart, and now you're an international brand. And they say, how does someone do that? Well, how does someone do that?
It's been a tough ride. It's been about 10 years from the markets to where we are now. And I guess if I had looked back when I was starting as well, I would have thought the same thing. But it really has been a slow burn of, persistence and getting over failures and everything like that along the way that's got us here. So from the markets when it was just me down there selling every Saturday, rain, hail or shine, to now having a business where I have 60 amazing employees. I ask myself the same question all the time.
That's absolutely is. And what a lot of us will be wondering, it started off as a side hustle and then you decided to go full-time as a business. What made you think that this is going to really work? Was it just purely the sales?
No, there's honestly such a culmination of events. And I think, for me, I had a business really early, obviously. I started when I was 16. And by the time I finished school, it was kind of making money at the markets one day a week. But I still had no conviction that I could be a business owner. So I actually enrolled in university and did a 5-year degree studying science and law, completely unrelated to jewellery. And to be honest, there was a few things along the way. Seeing other entrepreneurs make it, someone like Samantha Wills, for example, seeing her go from Bondi to New York, I was like, oh, there's hope there. But truly it wasn't until year 5 of university that I actually enrolled in a competition. It was run by the Entrepreneurs Organisation. And I remember I was in a law lecture one day and I opened this email saying that I was in the top 4 of this competition. And I was blown away and had to fly to Melbourne the following week to present the business. And I just dreamed big and presented what I thought the business could be. And I won. And to be honest, just winning that was sort of hope that I could be a business owner one day.
You've got a digital business, you've got a real world physical business. The marketing is always critically important. Have you joined the TikTok bandwagon?
TikTok, we actually, when it sort of was first released and it went big, we thought we have to get onto TikTok, but we actually found that it was taking up a lot more time than what it was worth for us. For us, we find a lot of traction in Facebook and Instagram, and it seems to be where our market is sitting more so. TikTok, we haven't quite nailed. A lot of our employees are all over it, so we might venture there eventually. But yeah, not for us right now.
Yeah. So what has been the best marketing avenue for the business?
To be honest, I think going back to the first day that we opened our store, it was this tiny little store in the outskirts of Hobart City. We used to have the door closed, so one customer would come in and I would have the opportunity to talk to them. Same with at the markets. The best marketing that I've always found are customers who create customers. So our goal, even for all of our retail members in store, face-to-face with customers and even in customer care, is to give an experience so amazing that people have to talk about it. And so to me, that's still my number one passion in marketing, to create customers who will tell other people. But yeah, again, Facebook, Instagram, but we're currently trying to sort of diversify that risk as well.
Okay. Now, it's important in your business to give back. Tell us how you hardwired that into the business, but also how do you select the causes?
Yeah, so it was a few years ago, I think it was about 6 years ago, that business was going really well. You know, we were getting heaps of sales. We had a growing team, and we realised that it was my sister and I in a meeting one day that we turned around to each other saying, we sell jewelry, and something didn't kind of light us up like it used to, and we realized that we needed more. We wanted more purpose, and we wanted to be able to give back to the community. And at this stage, we had a bit of a social media presence. So that's when we started our first aspect of giving back within the business, which was an awareness bracelet. And we partnered with Breast Cancer Foundation to create a bracelet where every bracelet that we sold, we donated a certain amount to the Breast Cancer Foundation. And from there, we've just added more and more charities that align with our values. We work with 12 a year, so one a month. And then we also have our charity, which we work with year round, which is an anti-human trafficking charity that I'm a director of as well. So I think we're nearly about to hit $1 million of donations to charities Australia-wide and overseas. So we have a tagline that says success means nothing unless we're giving back, and we try to sort of, I guess, promote that through the whole business.
That's a great story. So you've also got into podcasting, and it's Who I Am.
Yes.
How is this related to Francesca Jewelry?
Yeah, so we created a product within the business that has actually overtaken a lot of our collections, and it's called Francesca Create, and it's all around creating your story through a piece of jewelry. We had people literally writing in left, right and centre about what their piece of jewelry meant to them. And so then we started venturing into how can we tell other people's stories and explain it's who they are. And so that's why we last year, and I think it was during COVID lockdown actually, that we launched the podcast. And it literally is interviewing other people and really getting to the essence of who they are as well as business, but then what drives them, what success means to them. The first person we interviewed was actually Samantha Wills, who was our hero and someone who got us through some of the bad days.
So why don't we look at Francesca Jewelry going into the future? Will we see you with a pop-up or even a permanent shop on Rodeo Drive?
Well, if you'd asked me years ago, I would have said definitely. We started in bricks and mortar, so we had a Hobart store before we ever had an online store. We've also got a store in Melbourne Central, and it was our dream to open stores all over the world and in Australia. But online is just so powerful at the moment that we're finding that we're able to connect to customers everywhere without having a store. So as much as I'd love to have a Rodeo Drive store, I think we're going to be looking into more of like road shows. So trying to interact with customers and tell their stories through moving through different areas rather than having a physical store. So that's something that we're working on at the moment. It's a long-term dream of being able to tell people's stories.
Have you been shocked at how online has given you such a reach right across the world?
Online is seriously, I had friends telling me years ago, get onto online, like push it further. And I did always say that I needed the face-to-face interaction, but online has just been incredible. When COVID hit, we were fortunate enough to have online grow when our stores were closed. So yeah, I think, that tied with social media and people being able to be more open and telling stories online now is going to be something that we lean into.
Well, thanks, Hannah. It's a great story.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm now going to ask questions of all the group to see if there are other things that we have to learn from their fantastic stories. Let's go back to Hannah now. And Hannah, there are so many channels that we can use now to get through to consumers to build our businesses. What are the ones that really have worked to increase your reach of total audience?
We really work to build our email list. It's a way for us to be able to contact our customers every week, actually 3 times a week. So obviously we try to get people's emails when they first purchase in store through Facebook, Instagram, and different avenues, and then give them that sort of update all the time.
Let's go to Susanna now and basically ask her the exact same question. So what are the channels that are working for you?
We've always been very community-led, Peter. So where our audience is basically where you'll find us. Right now, we are very much dedicated to our strategy of really looking at what our audience is searching for. So where can we be that they are searching in any given point in time? And it has proven to be true for about a decade now that where they are looking for the style of content that we create is through Google.
Well, let's now go to Bridie to see what consumer channels are really working for her.
So we find a lot of our customers via social media channels, like everybody else, through Instagram and Facebook. Being a creative, we are highly influenced by images, so people like to scroll for inspiration. However, we try and go above and beyond that by creating informative and helpful advice for people once they engage with our community. So really important blogs, teaching people how to use our products, how to be creative, what to do within their small business, and providing them that content not only, creates a confident maker, but it creates a loyal customer. So we try to have quite a circular marketing within our business that not only engages through images, but teaches people how to explore creativity once they've landed on our store.
Yeah, that's a really great idea, and a lot of people will learn from that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
While I've got you, why don't you talk to us about what you're doing in your business to give back?
So over the past couple of years, we've really tried to focus on local initiatives. I think COVID really saw a lot of us just dialing back a bit and seeing how we could support those within our local community. So we donate thousands of kilos of yarn to our local homeless hub, for which they knit scarves and beanies and blankets for the homeless within our local community. We work with Mind Australia and Centrecare, who create people who are gone through traumatic things, be PTSD, DV, or anything that would lead someone to looking for help. So we engage makers to teach others how to be creative, because it really is a flow-on effect. Once people start creating with their hands, there's a sense of escapism. So rather than just providing a once-off, we want to nurture that person and give them the ability to just create some stillness in their world if and when they need it.
Susanna, let's go to you now. So what are you doing in your business to give back?
So we care, we contribute is one of our core values as a business. And we're really striving to do that by ensuring that our platform is having a very positive cultural impact, both in terms of people and in terms of the planet. So from a people perspective, we really think that the media and advertising industries can and should do a lot more in terms of inclusion. So we're very committed to making sure that we have plurality of perspective in the stories that we're telling. And we do that through the talent that we feature, through the creators that we engage, and also through a mindfulness of growing this consciousness around diversity and inclusion. And then on the planet side, we have an always-on sustainability vertical. And the simple goal for that vertical is that we can prove that living the good life can mean living more sustainably. So it's all about really offering those micro switches that can really lead you to having a very positive impact on the world around you.
Yeah, that's a really good message. Let's go to you now, Hannah. And so what is your business doing to give back? I know you've already touched on it, but just maybe even talked about the philosophy of the business.
Yeah, so giving back obviously is at the core of our products as well. So we often do products like our conservation charm, where for every conservation charm that's sold, we plant a tree. And my team has already had a tree planting day with Landcare, which was amazing. But we actually wanted to make more of an impact on a local level. And that started 3 years ago. We actually celebrated this, and we started by, we obviously make a lot of our jewellery still in-house in Hobart. And I became aware of the refugee community down in Tasmania, and I thought, you don't need to know English or speak fluent English to be able to make an amazing bracelet. And we actually have 9 refugee women who work in our production team now. So that's probably our most proud part of giving back. We have 7 women from Africa in Eritrea, and we have 2 Afghani women who work for us. So that to us is something that's a reminder of our gratitude every day coming to work and being able to support our local community as well.
This is a really interesting, how do you find the next big thing? Okay, your podcast was a big thing, I guess, and it has worked. How do you find the next big thing, the next big trend? Do you basically workshop with yourself, or do you try and get amongst your team and say, well, what are you guys seeing that I'm not seeing?
I think closing the feedback loop with all of our touch base with our customers. So for us, we ask our staff literally to feed back to us every week what our customers are loving and what's working. And I think leveraging into that, we've already stepped way more into our storytelling through jewelry and away from other things like fashion trend-based items that we used to do. But actually, one of our biggest forms of feedback is a biannual survey that we do with our customers every single year. And we ask 10 questions, we reward them with a voucher at the end. And for us, the feedback and the knowledge that comes from that has shaped where we go forward in terms of, I guess, keeping on trend. So that's been huge for us.
Yeah, customers will tell you where to go, that's for sure. Yeah.
They will.
Yeah. Let's go to Susanna now. Susanna, what are you doing to try and find the next big thing?
For us, it all starts with how we can grow the value for our consumer audience and for our brand partners. And we have a bit of an approach now that we've honed. So part of that involves really engaging our team in a bit of a Shark Tank exercise. So anybody who has this bent toward entrepreneurship is invited to participate, and they come up with the most incredible ideas that many of which become embraced within the company, are part of how we do business today.
Let's go to Bridie next. And Bridie, so how do you find the next big thing?
So rather than focusing on what everyone else is doing, look, we often find that people want a version of what they already have because they know it's safe. We often buy the same shirts, the same shoes, we go to the same coffee shops. People like to stick to their norm. Yet, as an innovator and a disruptor in this industry, I think it's my job to probably show them what I think they might like. Based on their customer purchase and customer data, I look at developing new products that don't exist based on what they like with a little bit of an intuitive and innovative spin on it. I did this previously last year, a new product, signature, worldwide, first exclusive. When I launched it to market, no one knew that this was possible. No one knew they wanted it, and it completely sold out. There was 8 tons sold just to email list in under 24 hours. This product that would have scared people if we showed it to them earlier, when delivered to them in a really inclusive way of how they could use this product, and to show them how they, could innovate their own making, made it a signature line for us.
Podcasting is becoming really important. Lots of businesses are using it to, get themselves out there and give themselves a competitive edge. Have you got into podcasting?
I haven't as yet. I'm an avid listener, but I haven't been on the other side of the microphone.
Think you might?
Oh, possibly. I do find podcasting is a great way to open your mind to what else is going on in the world, because we can somewhat fall into the trap of safety within our own walls. And being an entrepreneur, sometimes those four walls don't involve anybody else. So I love listening to podcasts.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's go to Susanna now. Susanna, have you got into the podcasting activity?
We haven't actively ventured into that space just yet, though we are working on one right now. Personally, podcasting is absolutely my guilty pleasure. I listened to one on Friday, actually, from Lin-Manuel Miranda on his creative process. And it is my most favorite thing to be alone in the car, without my 3 and 5-year-old, just able to tune in to learn from these amazing creative minds all over the world.
Okay, let's go to Hannah now. We know that she actually is podcasting. When you decided to do it, tell us why, and what have you learnt from podcasting? People are learning from you, but what have you learnt from podcasting?
Yeah, so it's actually a lot harder than it looks. Just the recording and getting it all out there online. And we started ours during COVID lockdown last year, and it was heavily around telling our story for the first part, but then also telling the story of other entrepreneurs. And our second series is all about having a heart of gold, so people who are giving back within the community in line with our values. I must say that we have dropped the ball a little bit. We haven't released a podcast for a little while because things have gotten a little bit hectic. But I think that the number one thing is to really make sure that it's in line with your values, and really closing the feedback loop again and asking people which episodes they loved. And it turns out that people actually love listening to the first episode where we were talking about ourselves rather than interviewing other people. So that's something that we might even sort of lean more into in the future, and open ourselves up to just interviewing, like my sister and I interviewing each other with questions from our audience.
Susanna, Bridie talked about the importance of community building to her business. What about you? Has community building really helped your business?
Our community is quite literally everything for us. We've been in business for a decade now, and we've created a community of 3 million culture seekers, we call them. And they really turn to us to seek out recommendations on things to do, book, buy, eat, learn, stream. We see our role as really serving that community to help them get out there and live the good life. And building that community has been absolutely the greatest achievement of my professional career. And we're now at a point where we have such a strong relationship with them, such an engaged relationship with them, that we've started co-creating with our community. And that feels like true connection with this audience. We're now at a spot where we are actively engaging with them and sharing their experiences right alongside ours. And it's a real shift in the media power balance. And I really love that. We're really meeting on this very engaged and very connected and very equal level.
Yeah, that sounds really exciting. It's really exciting. Hannah, let's go to you now. What about community building, with your business growth?
It's an interesting one in that at one stage we actually deviated away from our community and we were trying to be too big, and we actually forgot that the heart of the business and the reason why we grew so fast in the start was through community building. So actually we've come back to open-ended questions and asking our community what they think about our products. That's been a big one. So because we can make in-house, we can turn a new product to market within 48 hours. And we've started to go into the studio, make a product, ask our customer, what do you think? And they tell us. They'll tell us yes, they'll tell us no. And for them to be able to see the product launch 48 hours later has been really engaging. So that, in a sense, is how we've sort of leveraged their input, and it helps us create a successful product because we know that it's actually going to sell. The latest thing that we've just done actually last week was we've opened a Facebook community. We have now a group that our really loyal customers can actually join and have access to myself and my sister and ask questions, and I actually get more behind the brand. So that's something that I think a lot of businesses are starting to acknowledge and adapt, those community groups, and that's something that we're excited to be a part of.
Yeah, you paint the picture of a real win-win relationship, don't you?
Yeah, it's one of those things that, I mean, we serve them, so why not open the lines of communications up as much as we can?
Yeah, okay. Well, I've got you there. COVID-19 has created supply chain problems right around the world. What have you learned out of that experience of trying to get the supplies you need, and how does it basically affect the way you're going to do business in the future?
Yeah, so prior to COVID, I guess, when you have multiple manufacturers, the more you spend with a certain manufacturer, the more favourable the terms that you can negotiate. So prior to that, we were kind of like moving a lot to our most consistent supplier and asking for, like them to look after us a lot more. COVID has actually shown that to de-risk the business, we actually need to diversify. So we, not just one country as well. I was talking to Bridie earlier around, not just relying on, let's say, China or Hong Kong for our packaging and some of our supplies, but diversifying. And I think COVID has taught us also that we're so fortunate to be able to make in-house, and we're now working on a risk strategy. If there's huge supply chain issues and postage issues and things like that, can we do 100% made in-house as well? And, to be able to manufacture in Australia and pay Australian wages is something that we're really, really proud of. So COVID has definitely been something that has, I guess, highlighted that. And I think our customers want to try and support Tasmanian and Australian made wherever they can as well.
Yeah. All right, Susanna, what about you? What have you learnt from the supply chain problems of COVID-19?
To be honest, Peter, supply chain issues haven't really impacted us all that much in terms of the digital media space.
Bridie, let's go to you now in terms of the supply chain, because a business like yours, supply is critically important. What did you learn from the whole COVID-19 thing?
I learned that knowing your analytics, knowing your data, and just exactly how much stock you need is imperative. You can have a great business with an amazing customer base, but if you don't have stock, you do not have a business. So we saw, whereas in Europe, manufacturing was pretty much shut down, which made the containers coming out of Europe really hard. But we found Turkey to be a really great area within the supply chain to focus on. So enabling you to sort of filter within different countries and knowing, like, I might have 50 tonne worth of stock on the water at any one time, knowing that it might, if it used to take 23 days, it might take 45 days. But knowing that when it arrives, it just flows into, a lovely, warranted and recognised system. It's not managed by crises. We're looking at what we need, how long it may take, and implementing steps 6 months ahead to ensure that.
And did your planning incorporate the supposition that one day the Suez Canal would be blocked and maybe some of your supplies weren't going to get through for a long, long time?
Yes. I moved into a really large warehouse just as COVID hit. So I'm happy to store product because I don't want to be without product. So I'm always trying to be 3 months ahead at least because I know that's normally the length of delays if there will be large delays, because I don't want to sell out.
Great, fantastic. Before we wind up, we want to throw the floor open to our panellists to ask questions of each other and maybe bring out some stuff that hasn't come out in our previous discussions. Hannah, let's kick off with you. Is there anything I haven't really brought up you thought, gee, that dope, he should have actually asked me this question?
Now you're putting me on the spot. I do always love to know what others think of the 3 ingredients to success in business. So Susanna and Bridie, what do you think of the 3 ingredients that have, contributed to your success?
I would say passion. So just having an utmost drive and living and breathing it. Purpose will get you there, and prosperity, really. Putting on the spot, I think I am aligned with those areas, and I think new businesses starting out, you need to have focus in more than one area, and you need to have your eyes across all areas of your business and also your customer base. So those things should help you on the way.
True.
Hannah, I spoke a little bit earlier to the ideal team player and that model of humility, hunger, and people smarts. So I would definitely classify that. And then the other thing that I'm really leaning into and embracing at the moment is this idea of being is becoming. And it's that be, do, have idea and concept. So really just showing up a little differently in this world on the flip side of COVID, and really bringing my whole self rather than feeling this need to act in different roles in different areas of my life.
Oh, I love that. For me, Bridie, we're very similar. Passion, I think, is something that, I meet so many people who want to start a business, and often they just try to pluck something out of thin air. And I say you have to be passionate about it because, you want to be able to do this and not get paid for a very long time. The other one is conviction for me. Turning down a 5-year law career for business that was quite small at that time. You have to be fully convinced in order to convince everyone else that your business is worth supporting. And then the third one for us was perseverance. So persevering through, a really, really tough journey, eventually things pay off. So, yeah. Over to you, Susanna.
And to add on that.
Oh, yes,
just
Bridie.
to add on that, I think sometimes people can think their idea is too small. So when I was starting out, I was really successful in my teaching career, and I was on executive, and they had, bookmarked me for all these things that I didn't want. When I said that I was going to leave my career to do fibre, everyone laughed at it. Everyone thought it was a silly idea. There's not a market. But my whole teaching career, I always try to get across to my students, if you love it, other people will love it. Don't worry about listening to people who haven't done it, who aren't stepping into their dreams, who are too scared to do it. Don't listen to them. You will be successful if you are 1000% committed. It doesn't matter your industry. So a fibre artist, you could be designing steps or shoelaces or cufflinks. It doesn't matter. People will align with you and your purpose.
I have a question of you guys. And it is about this sort of cultural context that we're now in, and all of this narrative around it's not really a new world. Everything that we're experiencing is going to be kind of extraordinary from now on. I'm curious about what you've seen in the shifts over the last 2 years that you think will really stick around, I guess, either in a cultural context or in a business context.
COVID has made people realise that lifestyle can be achieved, not with huge amounts of money. So I think a lot of people are looking to, I guess, paint their lifestyles that might be like a 3-day work week or a 4-day work week rather than waiting till retirement. So that seems to be a bit of a shift. And my sister recently talked to a group of grade 10s about entrepreneurship, and she opened it up to questions at the end, and she was gobsmacked by the amount of young people who were asking questions about sustainability. And I think that's something that the younger generation is actually going to care about a lot more than our generation's sustainability. So they're probably the two things that I'm looking at as a business owner, lifestyle for my employees and also sustainability for the company.
Just like Hannah, lifestyle. But turning your passion into profit, that is now an achievable thing based with, you can easily set up a website, you can easily start an Instagram page and market for an audience. Your idea, be it a passion project, can become your main income. And still having connections to my school kids, we're seeing lots of youth actually wanting to create businesses, whereas it used to be go to university, get a trade. We're seeing people look globally for trends and find things that they could possibly, when we create businesses, they're not for ourselves, they're for our, the lineage that comes after us. And there's so many touch points that people are recognizing. You said, Susanna, that you were 5 generations small business, and hopefully in years to come that is apparent amongst a lot of us, that we're closing in the gap and to create a more sustainable economy. So I've got a question. So for the small businesses that will be watching this who probably don't have the funds or the many things that we now look to, if you had $5,000 to run your business from today, where would you put that $5,000 if you had to start again from scratch? Would you put it in marketing? Would you put it in developing new product? Would you put it in, in billboards? If you only had $5,000 to start, what would you do with it?
They say that advertising is the tax that you pay on a bad product. And I think that focusing on an amazing product, quality, price, some sort of value proposition is probably the biggest. So maybe putting some money towards that. And I think, being able to launch to market online is cheaper than ever. So I would probably say going towards creating a website, but also even kickstarting it with an in-person market. That's, I think, an underutilized way to sell these days. It's really hard to hit people cold online. In a market, you have a captive audience. So maybe some money splash there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. People often say, I don't have 10,000 Instagram followers or I don't have this large audience. Yet if you did a market stall and 50 people turned up, if you had 50 people in the room in front of you, you would give them your best self. But sometimes we are distracted by numbers that are online because, oversaturation.
I would spend it in something related to my gaps in skill set. And so I think it depends a little bit on what the product is that I'm bringing to market, but I would either spend it on the very best possible talent available in that space or in building my own knowledge around that particular sector so that I could actually bring that and give a whole lot more life and get a lot more return to that $5,000 spent.
I'm probably a mix of both of you. I would go into R&D, developing a product that would then market itself.
Well, team, it's been fantastic hanging out with you, hearing your answers, getting your insights. I think anyone who watches this program is going to be really lucky to be hanging out with you. Thanks very much for joining us again. That's our episode of Get Down to Business. Thanks for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you in the not too distant future. I'm Peter Switzer.